All right, today we're going to talk about, and you're going to be working with congruent triangles. Congruent triangles. All right, we've got a rule here, and the rule says that in congruent polygons, all the parts and when we say parts, we're talking about angles and sides. All the parts of one polygon are congruent to all the parts of the other polygon. All right, so the way that this refers to congruent triangles, we could say that in congruent triangles, all the angles and sides of one triangle are congruent to all the angles and sides of the other triangle. All right, so you're going to be given some triangles today, or some quadrilaterals, and you're going to be asked to show that the polygons are congruent, by identifying congruent parts then write a congruence statement. So here's how this works. If you're given a couple of shapes, let's say you're given a triangle, ABC, and a second triangle, DEF, and you're told this about the triangles. Let's say all right, remember these tick marks and arc marks. What this means here in these two shapes is that if we're going to show the polygons are congruent by identifying congruent parts, we're going to say that angle A is congruent to angle F. A is congruent to F. They both have one arc mark in their angle. So angle C is congruent to angle D. And so what's B congruent to? Good. B is congruent to E. All right, so there's your three angles that are congruent to three angles. And then what you do is the same thing with the sides. We have side AB, and it's congruent to side FD. No, it's not, is it? Yep. AB is congruent to FE. And AC is congruent to FD. And the last side is CB or BC. BC is congruent to DE. All right, so you have all the sides and angles of one triangle congruent to all the sides and angles of another triangle. That means the two shapes are congruent. The congruence statement. You can identify the triangle on the left by using its vertices. So you can call the triangle on the left triangle ABC is congruent to. And here's the most important thing about congruence statements. If we called the triangle on the left, or the first triangle ABC, we went from one arc mark to three arc marks to two arc marks in identifying the angles. So the first vertex that has to be used in the second description has to correspond to angle A. That's got to be F, right? And the second letter in this description has to correspond to angle B. So it's got to be E. All right, so triangle FED. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle FED. Now, it doesn't matter how you order the vertices in the first shape. You could have called the first triangle BCA. The description of the first triangle doesn't matter how you order the vertices. But when you write the congruence statement to describe the second shape, the vertices have to correspond. So in this case, since we used B as our first letter, we got to use E as the first letter here. And since C is second, then D has to be second. And if A is the last or the third letter used to describe that triangle, then F has to be the third letter used in the second description. Everybody all right with that? That's identifying all the congruent parts, identifying the congruent sides, and then identifying the congruent angles. And then that is called writing a congruence statement. These are congruence statements right down here. In the second part of your assignment, you're going to be told that the triangles are congruent, and then you're going to have to find some missing parts based on the congruence statement. So if you're told triangle, this is the given. Given that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DFE, find the values of x and y. So then you're given a picture of two triangles. And you've got triangle ABC. Where A is 45 degrees, B is 99, C is 36, side AB is 32.1, side BC is 38.4, and side AC is 54. Then you get this second triangle. And it's DFE. And this angle F up here is 8y minus 5. And side FE is 2y plus x. Here's how you start this. In this congruent statement, angle B is in the middle, and so is angle F. So angle B is congruent to angle F. Those two angles are equal to each other. So you write an equation that 99 is equal to 8y minus 5. Right? You use the information in the congruent statement to determine which angles and sides are congruent. Then you use the information given in the problem to solve for the variable. So right now you can add 5 to each side. And 104 would be equal to 8y. And then you could divide both sides by 8. And 13 divided by 8. And 13 is equal to y. So there's one of your variables. So now you've got to solve for x here, and you've got side FE. And side FE, that's the second and third letters in this description. That's going to be congruent to the second and third letters in this description, which is side BC, which is right here. So you write another equation. 38.4 is equal to. Now, we're not going to write this expression as 2y plus x. We're going to write it as 2 times the y. All right? It's 2 times the 13, which is 26 plus x. Substituted this y right here. So now you can subtract 26 from each side. And 38.4. 12.4 is equal to x. So there's your second variable. Anybody have any questions on either of those concepts or how to do either of those types of problems? All right, then your practice for today. Page 258 and 259. Gonna do 1 and 2. Four through 7, then 13 through 16.